Somalia is in a protracted constitutional crisis, with opposition leaders claiming that President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed, commonly known by his nickname Farmajo, has overstayed his mandate after elections failed to take place as scheduled. However, the country's foreign minister says Somalia is committed to holding free and fair elections.
It is the commitment of this government to honor this noble objective by delivering free and fair elections while continuing to safeguard the physical, health, and financial future of the Somali people.
Hello and a warm welcome to Africa Today, a program which gives you an in-depth analysis on events taking place in Africa. This week's edition will be focusing on Somalia's political stalemate amid frequent attacks by Al-Shabaab terrorists. We'll be asking what's behind the delay in holding elections, and are foreign actors involved in fomenting the current crisis? In the second part of our show, we are looking into the rapid growth of African startups over the last 1 year. Now, what are the reasons for the success of these startups during the COVID-19 pandemic? Stay tuned for the answers, and don't forget to send your views as you watch our show today.
Plans to hold Somalia's 2021 general election have failed as the ongoing power struggle between political leaders threatened to steer the country into a protracted political crisis. President Mohamed Abdullahi Mohamed's term officially expired on 8th of February, and now an alliance of opposition parties claims it no longer recognized the president and proposes the creation of a national council of lawmakers, opposition leaders, and members of civil society to lead the Horn of Africa nation.
It will be a transitional council chaired by one of the most senior elected politicians or politician among the other stakeholders, and that person will convene a conference between the federal member states and federal government, as well as the presidential candidates.
The crisis in Somalia is complicated by the country's unique electoral system, which is clan-based. The indirect system sees representatives from various clans across the country choose members of parliament. The president is then selected by members of parliament.
The system has been widely criticized by both ordinary citizens and the international community alike. The current political crisis comes while the country is still embroiled in conflict since 1991, when clan warlords overthrew dictator Siad Barre and then turned on each other. Since 2008, Somalia's Takfiri Al-Shabaab terrorists have been fighting to overthrow the country's central government. Now, for more analysis on the current political situation in Somalia, we have contacted Abayomi Azikiwe, the editor of the Pan-African Newswire. He has traveled extensively in Africa, conducting field research on political economy and history. Thanks a lot, Mr. Azikiwe. Now, first, can you tell us what's the legal status of President Farmajo after his term expired on the 8th of February?
Yeah, this is a serious question because there's a disagreement over how the elections should be conducted in Somalia. And there are political forces inside the country who are saying that his presidency is not legitimate at this point. And I think this is contributing to a lot of the instability and insecurity in Somalia. The government is fractured over how to move forward politically.
Thanks for that, Mr. Azikiwe.
In February, Somali government troops and opposition supporters, including some soldiers, exchanged gunfire in Mogadishu in street clashes that broke out during a protest march over delayed elections. What's the main reason for the delayed parliamentary and presidential elections in Somalia, and when are they likely to be held?
Yeah, this is a serious question because there's a disagreement over how the elections should be conducted in Somalia. And there are political forces inside the country who are saying that his presidency is not legitimate at this point. And I think this is contributing to a lot of the instability and insecurity in Somalia. The government is fractured over how to move forward politically.
Somalia is strategically located along the Bab el-Mandab Strait, which links the Red Sea to the Indian Ocean. Now, this fragile country is now a battleground of international and regional powers fighting for influence and the control of its resources. The Turkish government last year accused its regional rival, the United Arab Emirates, of backing terrorists in Somalia.
In a blunt statement, the Turkish Foreign Ministry accused the Emiratis of backing notorious Somali terrorist group Al-Shabaab. Turkey is already an influential actor in Somalia. Its biggest overseas military base is in the Somali capital, Mogadishu. Speaking during the opening of the base in 2017, Hulusi Akar, the then Turkish Chief of General Staff, who is currently the country's defense minister, said Somalia is a strategic country.
Somalia has strategic importance in combating terrorism and the security of sea lanes in Africa. It has a great potential to contribute on peace and stability in the continent and the Muslim world. A strong Somali army will surely take on the task for fighting terror groups nested within Africa.
Foreign countries such as Turkey, Qatar, the United Arab Emirates and Saudi Arabia are reportedly interfering in Somalia's political crisis. Now, Mr. Azikiwe, is it true, and what are they really pursuing?
Turkey has been involved in security consultation, military training, and economic support for Somalia for several years now. They've reached out to other African states as well. Saudi Arabia is the patron of many of the Takfiri organizations that are operating now, attempting to gain greater footholds on the African continent, particularly on the eastern coast of Africa. Also, it's been reported in years past that a lot of the charcoal production and export is done through Saudi transport networks from the southern region of Somalia, a lot of which is controlled by Al-Shabaab. So yes, all of these countries are pursuing their own national interests in Somalia.
Now, from what Mr. Azikiwe has said, it appears that Somalia is currently not in control of its destiny. Now, while foreigners scramble for Somalia, the Al-Shabaab terrorist group continues to carry out attacks, especially in the capital, Mogadishu. Residents live in fear of imminent attacks. A resident of Mogadishu explains here how he survived an attack by Al-Shabaab terrorists in January. Now, Mr. Azikiwe, you earlier talked about Al-Shabaab attacks in Somalia's capital. How is the political stalemate in Somalia affecting the war on this Takfiri terrorist group?
Yeah, it's hampering the war because it's taking resources and it's taking the focus of the security apparatus off of trying to contain the insurgency, which has been going on for many, many years. So until they can resolve the internal political situation inside the country, and also problems with contiguous states like border disputes with Kenya and other difficulties, these problems will not be resolved in Somalia. The only real hope is to build a new political dispensation inside the country that can bring in elements that have been alienated from the government for some time.
Thanks for that, Mr. Azikiwe. A new dispensation in Somalia is the key.
The Security Council announced recently it adopted a resolution reauthorizing the African Union mission in Somalia, AMISOM, until 31st of December. AMISOM will maintain nearly 20,000 uniformed personnel ahead of the phased handover of responsibilities to Somali security forces. The African Union mission in Somalia is currently training Somalia National Army before withdrawing from the country. An AMISOM official here elaborates.
These are annual programs that we are implementing for our AMISOM and Somali forces that are collaborating with AMISOM in intention that they are made ready to be handing over from AMISOM when we are transitioning.
laga yaabo dardargelin fara badan inuu keeno taas oo casharo inaan bixino muhiim ah oo gadaal ku sii bixino oo sii qaybino inay suura gasho.
Mr. Azikiwe, the African Union troops are expected to complete their mission in Somalia later this year. Now, is Somalia ready to take care of its security?
No, it doesn't appear that is the case. Yeah, this is something that's been discussed for several years now, and it remains to be seen if they actually pull out, because with the political stalemate that's going on right now within the federal government in Somalia, it's highly unlikely that a withdrawal of AMISOM forces at this point will result in any type of stability in the country. So we need to follow the situation very closely between now and the end of the year.
Thanks for that insight, Mr. Azikiwe. Now, here at Africa Today, we shall continue monitoring the situation in Somalia and keep you posted as it unfolds.
African startups defy pandemic.
Despite the COVID-19 outbreak, African tech startups raised a record high of $700 million from investors in 2020. Now, this is according to the African Tech Startups Funding 2020 report released by Disrupt Africa.
According to the report, 2020 was a record year for investment into the African tech startup ecosystem, with more startups raising more money from more investors than ever before. The report details how Kenya, Nigeria, South Africa, and Egypt are the premier investment destinations on the continent, though funding is also on the rise elsewhere. One of the leading startups which attracted investments last year is Nigeria's Okada e-hailing firm. The founder of the firm speaks here on his venture. Let's take a listen.
My name is Tayo. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Metro Africa Express, aka Max.ng. We run a company that provides app-based mobility to small businesses, to individuals, and to commuters in cities like Lagos, Accra, and we're gradually expanding and launching in other cities in West Africa. Mobility and last mile logistics, and logistics in general, is one of the biggest challenges that Africa faces today. And at the heart of economic development and economic growth and prosperity for people anywhere in the world is a very efficient and affordable and accessible logistics and mobility system. And how Max is bridging that gap in Africa today is, of course, by leveraging mobile technology to connect users with providers. Beyond that also, is the fact that we're taking away friction. So payments, for example, integrating with companies like FollowWave allows us to take away a lot of cash-based payments, improve security, because drivers moving around with cash also makes them targets for thieves, right? So eliminating all of that is extremely important in ensuring and guaranteeing security. And last but not least also is a lot of the work we do around financing drivers, providing them access to credit to be able to own their own motorcycles and their vehicles over a short period of time, and also providing them training that is so important.
Now, for more analysis on the rapid rise of African startups, we have contacted Msach Obioha, the Executive Director of Ventures Platform Foundation, and Mr. Amin Yusuf, the co-founder of Afrobytes, an international tech marketplace connecting businesses and technology leaders, founders, investors, policy experts, and the media with the African tech industry. Now, thanks a lot, gentlemen, for your time. Let's start off with Mr. Obioha. Now, what's the reason behind the resounding success by African startups?
The first is, so Africa is a very large market. Beyond the size of the market, there's been a lot of underdevelopment in most of Africa, which also presents huge opportunities. Technically, if you know anything about entrepreneurs, entrepreneurship is all about solving problems and wrapping sustainable business models around the solutions to those problems. So anywhere you see a lot of problems, the tendency is to see a lot of entrepreneurship and a lot of resilience and a lot of people trying to create innovative solutions and wrapping business models around those solutions. So for Africa, having a plethora of problems and having huge human capital, it just clearly means that there's going to be a lot of solutions coming out and people innovating and creating those types of solutions. So that's one of the reasons why there's been a boom with the innovation entrepreneurship ecosystem in Africa, and having lots of startups coming up. I think also the availability of digital penetration through telecommunications companies also has made it possible to have information spread super fast, have communication happen super fast.
Thanks for that. Now, what makes African startups attractive to foreign investors, and what potential do they see here?
They are looking for new frontiers and new markets, and Africa looks like a very great place to be, a very great place to invest. And for them, it's not about preaching, it's more like preaching to the choir, because they already see the potential of those types of investments in their own markets. While here, for many local investors, it's quite foreign for them to understand how you could own a little amount of equity in a startup, and the startup can grow super fast, and then be able to exit either through an acquisition. And one of the very interesting examples is how recently Paystack exited with an acquisition from Stripe at $200 million after just about 5 years of operation. Now, a traditional investor would not be able to understand how someone can build a company in 5 years and exit at $200 million, or how today Flutterwave, which is another fintech startup in Nigeria, is also worth over $1 billion. So these are concepts that have been quite difficult for local investors to comprehend and to grasp. And that's why platforms like my platform, one of the things that we do actively is we try to get traditional investors and teach them and try to educate them on the innovation and startup ecosystem and how investment here is done and how the upsides can be incredible.
In Africa, digital innovation is transforming the agriculture by improving food production, providing agribusiness opportunities, and making agriculture attractive for young people seeking employment as well. The Food and Agriculture Organization of the United Nations is involved in a project that has developed apps for smart farming in some African countries. Let's see how one of the apps works for farmers.
In Rwanda and Senegal, the FAO has partnered with local farmers and innovators to develop and pilot 4 new mobile apps that are making a difference in the lives and livelihoods of farmers. The 4 apps have voice and text features and can be used on smart and feature phones. The first app, called Cure and Feed Your Livestock, provides farmers with real-time information and advice on animal disease control and animal feeding strategies. It includes a vaccination calendar and a list of local veterinarians and shows water points and pasture maps.
urabibabwira uti nihagira iki kibazo mu veterinary utamubona shyiramo ibimenyetso ubona bazakubwira icyo ugomba gukora.
Mr. Obioha, can you elaborate on how some of these startups are having direct impact on the lives of African people?
These startups are able to create solutions that are now affecting the lives of many people, whether it's in payment or it's in healthcare. One incredible startup that I heard about recently is MDAS. They've been able to create this well-equipped medical diagnostic centers, but from using refurbished equipment. But what they've also done is they're able to service multiple hospitals. So while one hospital has equipment for their own customer base, which is quite limited, what they've been able to do is aggregate a lot of hospitals to use one medical center or one diagnostic center. And what this has been able to do is it's increased the number of people that can access medical diagnostic services, but also has reduced the price of the services, therefore getting in more access to more people.
Now, that's great. African startups are improving the lives of African people. That's another reason to be hopeful about Africa's future. Let's now bring in Mr. Amin Yusuf, a co-founder of Afrobytes. Thanks a lot for your time, Mr. Yusuf. Now, how is the increase in new business startups in Africa helping ordinary people improve their livelihoods?
I think the first sector I'm thinking about is definitely finance and access to finance, access to banking. Take the example of Kenya. They had a problem of unbanked people. And when the mobile money came, it helped a lot of people to be financially included. That means more transactions, that means more payments, that means that they had access to goods. So that was very important. And for example, now, I think that the volume of transaction in fintech in Kenya is more than 50% of the GDP. That's just really huge.
Now, what are some of the major challenges that African startups faced over the past year?
Okay, so I think one of the bigger challenges that they faced wasn't even the pandemic itself, but was like the restrictions that came with the pandemic. And those more nuanced effects have affected a lot of startups. One is spending patterns of people changed because people had new priorities. So people were not buying what they used to buy before. So a lot of startups have had to try to better understand their customer base now to figure out where to pivot to. Another thing was the lockdown was really brutal on Nigeria, for one, because a lot of people lost livelihoods, a lot of businesses shut down, a lot of people lost their jobs. And so the purchasing power of many of the people reduced, which also meant that they were not able to buy the normal services that they would normally purchase, which automatically reduced the amount of money that the startups could make, which obviously affected them negatively.
Tibu Health, a Kenyan health startup, is a classic case turning threats into opportunities. This app is gaining popularity in the country's capital, Nairobi, for providing home-based medical care. Tibu app was launched nearly 1 year ago at the early stages of the COVID-19 pandemic that forced many to stay at home. Let's have a look.
The age of the app means taxis and takeaways can be brought to your door at the touch of a button. But in a home in Nairobi, Natalie Maikere is requesting a different home delivery. Via Tibu Health's app, she's just ordered a doctor.
What I really like about it is it takes 15-30 minutes. So when the first time I used it, it was for me. Normally, I never go to the hospital because it takes too much time. But this time, I didn't hesitate. I was like, oh, this is easy. I just call a doctor and it comes.
Have you ever had this headache before?
With 600 customers in Nairobi, Tibu is a small player in a global movement towards home-based medical care.
Despite the lockdown and job losses, several startups made massive profits. How was this possible?
For some businesses, it was super positive for them, especially businesses around remittances or businesses that were into foreign investments in Nigeria. So we saw some of those companies increase and grow in revenue. And by one program that we were running, the FinTech Accelerator program, we had one of the companies there that was into remittances and into international investments, and they grew from less than $10,000 in assets under management to over $2 million in about 2 to 3 months.
Well, from our conversation today, it's quite clear that Africa is a new frontier for startups. The population there is young and eager to embrace new technologies, and this creates a great opportunity for startups. That wraps it up for this week's edition of Africa Today. Do let us know what you think about our show through our social media handle. It's been great having you, and on behalf of my colleagues here at Africa Today, it's goodbye for now.